Welcome back to another episode of Worship Tech Tour featuring The Belonging Co. In this video, you're going to get an in-depth look at the lighting system they use as well as the display system that they are using, featuring probably the most epic LED wall I've ever encountered before. As always, I want to invite you to check out the links below this video if you want a link to our free worship ministry toolkit with a list of all of our favorite and latest gear and software for worship ministry. And also check out the link below the video to the latest album from The Belonging Co. Worship, See the Light, which you can stream anywhere where you can stream songs. Taking us on this tour of their lighting and display system is Andy Rushing. He is the technical director at The Belonging Co. Andy is the tech director. Later on, you're going to meet Bryant, who's the production director. Andy gets to focus on the technical side of things. They recently brought Bryant on the team, who takes care of managing and growing their production team, kind of the people side of things. Andy focuses on the technology, keeping it maintained, as well as upgrading it, making any changes. And he is the one who is going to dive into the weeds for us of their lighting and display system. So let's go ahead and dive on in, starting with the fixtures that they are using. When you look at the stage in the Belonging Co. auditorium and you see a ton of lights that are on the rigging above the stage, providing backlight and side light around the band and the different subjects who are on stage, those fixtures are the Chauvet MK3 spots and the MK2 washes.
Yeah, so it's all Chauvet spots and washes. They're all from the Maverick line, MK3 spot and MK2 wash. So they match really well. Obviously, we don't have a great trim height in this room. I mean, we can do what we want to with it, but it's not, we don't have 30, 40 foot ceilings. So we had to get creative there. So we actually chose to do all dead hang. So we didn't use any motors over the stage. We just used Schedule 40 pipe and we dead hung it from the grid so that we could get everything as high as we can. It's got its perks. I knew that by doing that, I was limiting my ability to change a whole bunch, being able to fly stuff in and rehang it. So we're exploring options to change that a little bit, but to have a kind of a static house rig that was flown over the stage, we were very excited about that option and getting stuff as high as possible, which, coming from a rental venue that was even shorter than this one, height was a big one for me. I wanted to make the room feel as big as possible. So we did that, and then we flew out over the house. We worked with Diversified and flew Chauvet PixM USB fixtures. I believe they're from the DJ line. They're extremely cheap price-wise, but we were able to get a bunch of them, and I think we have like 64 over the house, and they are pixel bars that are on a tilt head. They don't zoom, it's a static focus, but we can tilt them back and forth, and we have individual pixel control over them. I can actually map content over those as well. We're using Inbox Media Server, so which is great for pixel mapping. So we're able to map content across those fixtures as well. So for camera, it was really important that we highlighted the audience, so that whenever you're watching online, you feel connected. It's not just a dark room and a stage, but we didn't want to just have house lights on. So this was a really creative way that we could include the crowd in everything we do, but also have it feel cohesive with the stage. And then one extra layer of that was being able to pixel map it and say, all right, we've got content on the wall, we can map fixtures over the stage, and now let's copy that onto the crowd. And so jib shots and dolly shots look really good, having everybody in the crowd's head and shoulders lit, and it matched the stage, and the energy up songs are really fun. You see everybody dancing and getting involved, and there's color on them, and then being able to also include that in some of the slower worship stuff and match colors was really important.
Underneath the large LED wall on stage, they are using the Showline SL640s, which gives them a very nice and precise color wash, and they have pixel control, so those lights can even produce a color gradient. To front light the stage, they have two types of fixtures. First, they have the R2 washes, which have the ability to produce any color, focus, zoom, all of the fancy things you'd expect in a moving fixture, and they use these fixtures primarily to light the band members, which sometimes sometimes the band members are in different parts of the stage. Some weeks they have a choir they have to light, so the moving fixtures give them the flexibility to do that for front lighting. And then for the speaker front lighting, that can remain pretty stationary. What matters most is dialing in the right color and color temperature. For those fixtures, they are using the Chauvet Ovation F915S. These fixtures produce a full color spectrum, and you can also have precise control over color temperature, which is really important as they're trying to light the front of their subjects, especially for broadcasts, and they want them to look vibrant but also natural on camera.
The speaking wash was important. It's important to have that super smooth, even wash, which I think really translates well on camera. And they have a great color rendering index as well. So that was important, that our messages always looked even and smooth. There was no color blowouts or anything like that. And haze has been a big one to figure out with that as well. We have the MDG Atmosphere, the ATME, which I love. It's probably my favorite hazer. But it will really smoke the room out if you're not careful. And so finding that happy medium of, we can see beams, but if things don't look out of focus or they're not super washed out, has been a huge battle, especially with volunteers running, just reminding everyone, hey, watch the haze. So we're still navigating that, but it's all a part of how can we have stuff prepared and have a consistent look across the board, but also be flexible with on-the-fly stuff. So.
For lighting control, they're using the Grand MA3. This was recently upgraded for their system from a Grand MA2, and here are some of the reasons why Andy loves the Grand MA for lighting control.
6 years ago, I discovered Grand MA lighting. Changed my life forever. No, it really was great though. I like to say that I missed the first series, so I never got to play Space Invaders, but I started out on Grand MA2 and loved it. It was it just, every time I would use the console, I'd find something new, and so that's where I got kind of my start really in the touring world, was on that, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of learning, and so over the years, that's where I poured all of my lighting time, was programming on Grand MA2. One of the things I love about MA is how structured and flexible you can be with it. So I set everything up as I would for a tour. So I went through our planning center list and I programmed as many songs as I could, and we had a nice library of programmed songs that were ready to go for a Sunday or Tuesday. And then our volunteers would come in and they would find their songs within the library and they'd create their set list, and then they just, you push the button for each song, it loads the cues, you're able to go. So it was, being able to structure the lighting department that way was awesome. And that was a huge benefit of having MA, was being able to have all that done and be super flexible for everyone.
So when it comes to worship tech visuals, you have first your lighting system, and then second you have your display system. So these are the screens that can generate graphics. They can also put up lyrics for songs. They can also generate other videos that one would play in a worship gathering. The side screens at the Belonging Co. are your basic projector and screen setup that they're using primarily for eye magnification. So the camera feed that's capturing what's going on stage is being sent to those side screens, so if you're in the back of the room, you can see what's going on. And then you'll also find they use those side screens for lower thirds lyrics on top of the iMag so that you can sing along with songs. So that's a pretty typical setup of a bright projector with some great reflective projection screens. But the display that's really going to stand out in their setup is the LED wall, and Andy unpacked this super well, so let's go ahead and hear from him why they went with this setup and how it works.
It's a Thor Edge 3.4, I believe, so it's 3.4 mil indoor LED wall, and the tiles are 1 meter by half meter. It helped us on weight. They came in and reinforced the roof over the stage, but we don't have a ton of rigging capacity. So the fact that they're full meter by half meter means that there's actually only one module per panel. So instead of having half meter by half meter and a module for every one of those, we actually get one module for every 2 regular size panels, so it cuts down on weight quite a bit. But the nice thing, the big selling point for us on this wall was processing. Processing we use for this is Brompton. We have the Tessera processor, 4K processor, and which is the same one that Rowe uses. And this Thor is kind of it's a variation of a Rowe product. It's not Rowe, but it's a variation of it, and they use the same processing. And Brompton is by far one of the best processors I've ever used. The ability to go in and change things, like we had a section of LED tiles that just randomly decided to be a different, like slightly different shade from the rest. And the processor, we can go in, I can select those panels and adjust red, green, blue, the hue. I can adjust the luminance, and was able to go back and match them to the rest of the wall, which doesn't really exist in a lot of other processors. With this design, we did a curved wall. With the processor, you can go in and actually select the seam of every panel and adjust the brightness of the pixel on either side of the seam, so that if you're curving it the way we're curving it, it's not brighter at the seam because the pixels are closer. So you can actually go in and adjust each seam so that everything looks seamless. So it's by far one of the most intuitive processors I've ever used. On top of that, the LED tiles also look phenomenal. The color on them looks really good. The blacks, like it's true, like it's such a true color. You don't get the weird like gray shading on some of the black. It's true blacks, it's true colors. Like, it looks really good. The tiles have a built-in 10-degree either direction curvable function, so you can curve them 10 degrees out or in per each panel, which is how we were able to do the curved look that we have now. But that being said, with that curved design, we realized as I was putting it together, I got Corey and I was like, hey, so this is gonna be like almost 6,000 pixels wide. So how are we gonna pull this one off? So the ratio of this current design's 10:1, so it's 5,760 pixels wide by 576 pixels tall. So it was quite the feat. But with Brompton and PVP and Inbox, we were actually able to basically we took 2/3 of the wall that still fit within a 3840 width raster. So we took that, and then the leftover panels we actually mapped underneath. So when you look at it on all of our content computers, on the multi-view and everything, you have a section of the content, and then underneath it you have another section. But with the way we mapped it, it moves that around for us, so that when it actually gets to the processor, it's coming in at the full 5760 by 576. So because we don't have any computer that'll output that width, but our content creators can still create within the full raster. They don't have to move it around. We're able to map it that way with the computers and with Brompton, so that the wall still reads it correctly and everything looks the same, but we're not having to get super creative with content and saying, all right, cut it here and then move this under. So that was a fun one to figure out, but we were able to get it working, and now we have a really cool panoramic stage design that, it's different. You see different parts of it from different parts of the room, but I think it gives everybody a really cool worship experience.
That wraps up this episode of Worship Tech Tour featuring The Belonging Co. I want to say a big thank you to Andy for taking the time to unpack their amazing system for us here on the Churchfront channel. If you found this video helpful, leave a like and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on our future episodes of Worship Tech Tour. Also, check out the links below this video where you will find our free worship ministry toolkit, and you'll find a link to The Belonging Co.'s latest worship album, See the Light, streaming on all the platforms. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.